Hello, welcome to the Darby Creek Diaries. Woo, has it been windy around here? This is my first chance to talk without things banging around outside. And we're going to make a swinging spinning card today using the February Hero Arts kit that's from the Roaring Twenties. And there is some confetti and a nice stencil that I've done some other things with. I'll show you later in another video. Some pretty mirror cardstock. And then the actual kit. And hey, save that ribbon. I use it. With Roaring Twenties stamps, I love how the Art Deco look. And I've said the bee's knees for years. So I love having that. And there's some masculine things to make cards with, and I like that as well. There's a cover die, which is very unusual to get in a kit. And then the rest of the dies for the larger outline stamps. So if you've never had any dies, they come usually joined together. And I use a jewelry cutters. There's a flat side there that I just showed you. And you put that flat side up against the die you're cutting out, and that way you can get all the little things, not have those pokies, because those things can hurt. Now for the card. I'm using Paper Smooches. It's a mirror stamp. You could use the back of another stamp if you want. I took everything out of my MISTI because I'm stamping on a stamp. So you just load that puppy up right in the corner, so that makes it easy and I'm also going to rub on it a little bit to kind of season it a little, since it's a brand new stamp. Then I'm positioning the stamp I want to mirror, because we're going to make two sides to our spinner. So I'm making the mirrored side first, and I used VersaFine Clair ink, which turns out to be a really good ink for this. My pad's nice and juicy. So I kind of don't trust it though, so I always go and do a second stamping, which is why putting it in the corner makes it a lot easier. And I gave it a good rub, and now I'm just laying my Neenah 110 Solar White card and just rubbing all around to make sure that I pick up all of that ink. And there is our mirror image. Now I'm going to go and do the regular image. Don't be confused, because I had made a practice one on that other paper, and I hate to waste paper, so that's why you're seeing that. And I'm just going to stamp this like I would the regular way. I got lucky on 2 counts, because after I stamped the mirror image, I decided that I was going to clear emboss it. And the inks, the VersaFine Clair stayed damp enough to be able to do it. So there are my 2 images. The other thing is I didn't use my powder tool, which I normally would, but since I'm die cutting it, it didn't seem like it would make much difference, and it was clear powder. But normally I would always use my powder tool. And now I'm going to put this back in the jar, because I don't know about you, but if I have an open jar of that anywhere, I'm going to knock it over. And here's the magic. The reason I got into stamping, I saw this on TV and I just thought that was just so amazing. And I still find it amazing every time I heat emboss something. So now we have a nice, solid heat embossed couple that I can go ahead and color with Copics. Now, I saw a little tiny dot there that I didn't like, so I went back in with a black pen and fixed it, and nobody will be the wiser, and I hope you don't tell anybody. So this is the normal side, the way the original is. So I cut that out, but now we have to do the reverse. And I thought, boy, this isn't going to be very easy to cut. So I used my cell phone. You could use a light table or a window or something. And I tried to line it up as best I could with my image, and I have my die flipped upside down on the back. And you just line it up with, and I have some tape, some of the purple tape there, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and press that down. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It's pretty forgiven, but I think it's pretty good, especially since I didn't use a light table. So I ran it through my Gemini Junior, and you kind of, with this purple tape, I even had stuck it to my skin a little bit, but I didn't get enough of the sticky off. So you do want to very carefully remove that tape and roll it back against itself, and that'll be the easiest way. I love this tape, and you can get loads of uses out of it. But the Gemini especially tends to really press hard, and it makes it a little harder to get off. But still, it's a great tape. So there is our image. Now I'm making my card base. It's going to be a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 side fold card with my bone folder. And we're going to set everything up. To save time, I had cut out the cover die with that silver cardstock. And now I'm just arranging things to see how I can get this to fit. And it looks like my images are too big, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off of this plate, and I don't think anybody is going to notice it, unless you were real familiar with it. And even then, who cares? It's amazing to be able to cut these up and do different things with it. Now I've got more room for my friends there to spin around. So I'm going to cut out the card, actually. That's the front of the card. And I'm just going to draw a light pencil line around. So I'll have a cutting line, and I'm going to cut just a little on the outside of that line. And it'll just take a few minutes, and I'm just going to fussy cut it. You could use a craft knife. That would be a good thing to do as well. So I'm just going to poke a hole in the middle and start cutting, and I like to cut right into a point. And then but nothing formal. I just kind of wing it, but I find it's easier to cut into points. Now here is where, if I could change things, I would change things. I stretched out some clear thread over the back of that cover die, and I'm gluing it down with my Lawn Fawn glue tube. And I'm just going to let it dry for a while. However, if I do this again, I am going to stick it by the sheet. It would be so much easier to use. Now I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to have to put little dots of glue all around all these lines. Didn't think of that. And that also would have helped with laying down the thread a little bit too, although I would have reinforced it with glue. So I'm going to go around, but I'm not going to make you suffer through all of this. Now the Lawn Fawn glue tube is good. It will give you a little tiny bit of wiggle room, and after all of this, I'm going to opt for that wiggle room. So I'm just going to place my cover die cover die cut over my hole and kind of adjust it and shift it around a little bit. Sorry, my head's getting in the way there. There we go. And I press that down pretty good. Put something heavy on it for a few minutes. The glue dries very quickly. And I'm going to save the pieces of that and do an inlay die cut on another card. And now I'm getting there was just a little bit. If you get glue on that mirror cardstock, just let it dry, and then you can just roll it off with your finger. So here is the card base all ready to go, and that thread is right there in the middle. And I have it so that it's hanging over both ends. And I didn't know where I was going to cut it originally, but I decided I would cover the where you see the thread at the top by using just some Nuvo Drops, the red glitter, which I'll show you in a bit. So now I'm using the score tape because I want this to be very sturdy on the thread and to, really, really adhere. And I'm going to just kind of size things up and see where I want to make sure that it's as in the middle as possible. But anybody that knows me knows I am not real into highly technical and measuring of things. You can also see I'm cheap when it comes to paper, and I'm using that back part of what I'd already practiced on there. I probably wouldn't have done that on purpose because I had to touch up a little bit on the side. But I'm going to take my tweezers there and get that centered, and then center these guys and push them together. And there is our couple. And they are twirling around. And all you got to do is just, when you put it in the card, just make sure that you crank it up so when the recipient pulls it out, it'll just spin. Now here's the card, and there's my glitter drops up top. And I'm using mirror. It's hollow mirror cardstock from Tonic. And I think it reminds me of having those crystal balls in the middle. And I just love the kind of the party feel that it is. And I just stamped "Have a Roaring Good Time" and then outlined it with black marker and then matted it with a red. And this is our card. I'm really having fun with this, and I hope you will try it and enjoy it and send them to friends. A great card for birthdays or a party invitation. It wouldn't be all that hard. You could simplify it. So here's another look at the card. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Then you'll like and subscribe and leave me a comment and visit the darbycreekdiaries.blogspot.com. I appreciate so much you spending time with me, and I'm going to leave a couple more links for other tutorials I think you might be interested in. You have an awesome day, and I'll be back soon. Bye-bye.